Last night, the committee of 4 men and 1 football mad dog finally convened a little later than planned. I had to delay the meeting because certain committee members absolutely insisted, on rewatching Brian Broby's bicycle kick equalizer against Arsenal from every possible angle. A proposal that I outright rejected out of hand. So after conveniently biding my time to allow for the temperature to settle, we reconvened following the England-Serbia match, where I treated the committee to a palate cleanser. Saka and Eze scoring absolute bangers for England. Spirits lifted, snacks replenished, and dignity partially restored. We got to work, and through the chaos, the debates, and the replay ban I've now imposed, we've toiled and burned the midnight oil to graft this week's definitive list. So without further ado, it is time for Anton's Tears. Hello everybody, and welcome to Hotsport. It has been a bit of a quiet week on the channel because it's international break. And not because I'm trying to avoid doing the tiers because of a certain result at the Stadium of Light. No, that is not the way we operate, right? Anyway guys, make sure you're smashing the like button on the video. Make sure you're subscribing to the channel, to Hotsport. We have now surpassed the 600 sub landmark in building this channel. We are now less than 400 subs away from the 1K mark, and it's the ultimate 1K mark, which of course can help me get monetized and bring this channel to just absolute new heights. And so that is the ultimate goal. So guys, every like counts as we work our way, every single sub as we work our way up to 1K. We're 700 is the next one. We don't put the cart before the horse. So we're on the road now, past 600 towards 700. And guys, you can follow us on the socials, although I need to be a little bit more active on the socials. But you can follow us on Instagram, on TikTok, and obviously you can follow me on X or the platform hotsport.au. And of course, last piece of business before we get into the tiers I'm sure everyone is more excited for than I am. Hit the QR code, and you guys can take you guys to sub on to Fire Them Cannons, my Arsenal only podcast that I do with Cal Gunner. The great Cal Gunner, who, by the way, is back in action. So I saw him yesterday on Six Sided. Excellent work. A great episode. Very entertaining. By the way, of course, we partner with the Football Terrace, so go check that out as well. I will take a sip of my coffee. And we will be on our way. All right, let's go. It's time for Anton's Tears. Let's start at the bottom here. In the bin, Leeds United have now joined Wolves. And look, do I need to say much about Wolves? Do we kind of realize what Wolves are at this point, right? Just a really bad team that look destined for relegation. I just feel like I'm repeating myself week after week after week after week. But I want to talk about Leeds because I said that I thought, we went back a couple weeks ago and there were about 4 teams that we thought had in the relegation thing, and above Wolves. And I said, you know what, of all these teams, I actually think Leeds is the most likely to survive. Back-to-back thrashings. To be fair, both of them away from home, so away at Brighton, and then they lost to Forest, though. A Forest team that had finally got a win for the first time, I believe, since Nuno. And it was the hands of Leeds. Now, to be fair to Forest, right? They would look at Leeds and go, you know what? If we're going to survive in this league, we got to beat Leeds. So that's what they did. So at the moment, Leeds are starting to look like a championship team again. I thought they had the talent enough to stay up. I loved, the way they dominated the championship last year, and I thought they were a level above, and they deserve to be in the Premier League because I feel like this is a team that when they're down in the championship, that level seemed like they were playing on easy, like it was too easy for them. But now they come up to the Prem, and they've been playing well for the most part, but recently, as the weeks have gone on, and of course as the picture starts to take shape, they're looking a little bit out of the realm. Like, I don't know how the word, like, a bit uncomfortable, sort of, in within their surroundings, in their new Premier League surroundings. And look, 11 points and 2 points. I know you're going to say, like, how you put Leeds and Wolves in the same category. And it's just, firstly, Leeds have played a very easy schedule. The 19th, according to me, easiest schedule now through 11 matches. Right? They're averaging less than a goal a game. And the goal difference is terrible. Now, if I were to differentiate, would I say Leeds is better than Wolves? Yeah, probably. But yeah, I don't know. This is kind of where they feel. I feel like they're bottom tier now. As the season progresses, sometimes these teams have like nice life and excitement. They start up to the year. Like Ipswich started, I think, off pretty nicely last year, and then started to tail off and started to look more like where Ipswich were probably going to be, which was finita, which is what eventually happened. Let's see. At the moment, though, Leeds, I think, what are they in the Premier League table? They're 16th. But for me, I don't know. I just feel it's close. Like what? They are 1 point above the relegation zone. West Ham is starting to pick up some pace here. Forest just beat them head to head. Yeah, I don't know. This is kind of how I feel. Anyway, next up, towing the line. And that's what I mean by towing the line, is like these two sides are walking a bit of a tightrope here in terms of their form. So Leeds, not Leeds, we spoke about Leeds. So Fulham, by the way, same amount of points as Leeds. So that should illustrate to you how I feel about Fulham. After they got the big win against Wolves, again, Wolves are a bit of a batter, punching bag right now in the Premier League. Went to the Heel Dickinson Stadium and looked thoroughly outclassed by Everton. And they're just kind of back to where they're going. If you really look back at the big picture on their season, it's 11 points out of 11 games. A very below par, a very below average, bottom 5 talented squad. And they're losing games. What's the form table here for Fulham? Like, 4 out of the last 5, I know they got at least 4. And yeah, it's just, yeah, you can beat Wolves all you want. I think I'm not going to give it credit to anybody for beating Wolves this season. My apologies to Wolves. It's just how it is. But Nottingham Forest, on the other hand, I think on the up and up. I think they were on the bottom tier for a little bit. They got their first win, so for a long time. I'm pretty sure between Ange and Sean Dyche, this is the first victory since Nuno Espirito Santo departed the football club earlier on, before the first international break. So that kind of illustrates you. Now this is like, that was before the first international break. They got their win right on the last weekend before the third international break. And that's just kind of how it's been. So the form overall throughout the season is towing the line, but is there a little bit of signs of life now? I believe so. I think now we're starting to see it. They got the draw against Man United at home, then they went ahead and they beat Leeds comprehensively. So both of these two teams, though, need to find form, or they're going to sort of be in this relegation zone. Well, Forest still are 19th in the Prem. There are signs for me that this is a team that's way too talented. I still think this is a top 10. Look at that roster. First of all, look at the badge on my shirt, right? Elliot Anderson has been pulling up trees in an England shirt, and I think he's been really carrying Forrest. I think he's an excellent talent. I mean, pair him with Morgan Gibbs-White, who really basically was almost gone to Tottenham, and Marinakis, I don't know what he did. I don't even want to get into that. To be able to bring him back. So, like, on their third now manager, Sean Dyche, I'm starting to see Forrest come back to life a little bit, and I think overall, they're going to be too talented to go down. At the moment, they are towing the line. Next up, uncomfortable conversations, and I'm not talking about Burnley and West Ham. I'm talking about a club who is somehow in the same bracket as Burnley and West Ham. That's Newcastle. No disrespect to Burnley and West Ham. I will touch on you guys for a second. For Burnley, the two of them clashed. You know, it is what it is. I think you're starting to see kind of what Burnley are, but they're still above expectation, right? And I love the fight that they showed at the end. Even though, like, West Ham seemed to have put the game away, they still had the character to kind of make it a fight right up to the end. Because I think, that shows a steal. That team is trying to stay up in the league overall. But for West Ham, they're starting to turn a corner. I think West Ham, look at the results. Of course, they've beaten Burnley, and many people, you're not going to really credit them that much for it, but they beat West Ham, who are on this. Look at it. They're both teams on the tiers. West Ham is the one that's doing the best. Straight up. And so they bounced back very well. Their form is picking up over the last couple of weeks. Heading into the national break on a high. They're on their way up. The trajectory is on the way up. But the other team with the trajectory on the way down is Newcastle United. And we put out a warning to them, and I said, look, I also put them on upset alert last week. And I'm like, this is your season, guys. Show us what you're made of. 2 weeks ago, I said, they needed to get a win. Who was it when they played? They played West Ham, and they lost to West Ham, and now they've lost to Brentford away from home. And now, look, to be fair, a lot of teams have put Brentford away from home, but I'm running away from the point here, and that is Newcastle were meant to be pushing for that top 5-6 sort of position. I had them ranked 6 overall in overall roster in the squad, 6th best squad in the league this year. And now they're in the bottom 6 or 7 teams in the league in terms of the tiers right now, in terms of performance. They are currently placed on the Premier League table, I believe, at 14th. Am I correct? 14th. That is bottom 6 or 7, as I said. So, what's going on? I keep hearing the striker excuse, all this stuff. Yeah, your striker's there, and you're losing to West Ham and to Brentford. You're expected to have a better level, right? Wissa left Brentford to join you. He thought that he was up in the world. I mean, but to be fair, it's a whole other topic. West hasn't been played. And I guess you could talk about injuries, especially Hall and Livramento haven't been fit, so you haven't really your best 2 fullbacks, and I think that plays a part into it. And of course you're missing Wissa, but it's just that Champions League form versus that Premier League form just makes no sense to me, guys. It literally makes no sense to me, and I don't want to hear chest from Newcastle fans. I get it, but your team's just making you look foolish at this point. Yeah, uncomfortable conversations about where you really are this season. Reality is starting to set in about what your season might start to look like. But plenty of the year to go. We still have 27 games remaining for them to turn around, but they're going to have to start to build some incredible consistency. And can you please begin when you play City after the break. That would be lovely. It would be a great way to bounce back. That would be put some energy right back into those Newcastle sales, right? That's what it is. Anyway, next up, definition of mid. I kind of have alluded to this the whole season. Now, while it was a good win over Fulham, Everton is starting to be a little bit like in the middle here. Like, I expect them to have comfortable wins over the teams in the 3 tiers below them. Maybe not Newcastle as much, but I think overall, when they play any of those 3 teams, any of those 6 or 7 teams below them, I expect them to win. But I feel like when they play some of the teams above them, they aren't quite at those levels. Like, they're not quite like. I think there's a ceiling, and that's just like right below top 10. I think the highest I see Everton going is 10th or 11th this season. They're just sort of in the middle. They're just, and they got players on loan like Grealish, like good performance from him last week. But let me take a look at that game. Fulham Everton. Yeah. Yeah. They're a bit mid, gotta say. And we're just directly in the middle. I've got much to say, to be honest. So let's move on to the next tier. Good. Now, I've had these 3 teams sort of paired together for a while now. And I think because these teams always get overlooked. They always go like, I think we're going to get the win here. And they have played spoilers. And I gotta congratulate Sunderland. Let's just bite the bullet right away, right? Let's rip off the Band-Aid. Sunderland were the first team, really, in a very, very long time, who showed bravery, who found a formula for making Arsenal uncomfortable, who took it to us, who, despite going behind, really took it to us, really penetrated us. And I've got my reasons for why I think Arsenal necessarily weren't up for the task as much as they have been in basically the whole year. But I want to remove that Arsenal element out of it, because while I tell everybody that it's no shame in losing to the Arsenal, it's a tremendous feat in drawing with Arsenal at this point in the season. And they stopped the clean sheet record. Ballard, Xhaka were up for this game. And Brian Broby, as much as I said I wanted to avoid the topic, I mean, he was boxing the box. It was an impressive piece of athleticism to force that goal in, although I don't know what Raya and Gabriel are doing. But despite that, it was a crowd that was up for the game. There was an intensity right from the start. There was a defiance on the defensive side of the ball. Like, Arsenal's goals had to be really, really excellent for us to penetrate them. There was a point at nearing halftime where I felt like we had run out of ideas. And credit to Mikel Arteta for putting something together in order to get that comeback going. But overall, Sunderland were excellent. They made me feel uncomfortable. That was the most uncomfortable I felt all year. So credit to them. Their team they're top 5 now in the Prem. So I think they're top 4, right? 4th. They've had a better season than Spurs, better season than United, better season than Liverpool so far to date. And they're going to be a tough out for anybody. So we might look back and say, hey, look, point at Sunderland was a good point for Arsenal. But they are sneaky good. Like, you go into that game going, we should beat Sunderland. They were promoted. And I can't even, I don't even necessarily know if it's down to the talent. I got to give Granit Xhaka a big amount of credit, because he came in, he could have easily stayed in Germany. He was successful stint at Bayer Leverkusen, but he went to Sunderland, a team that's just got promoted into the league, and he has taken them next level. He's got them in the top 4, and he's that energy that he has at Arsenal. He's bottled that, and he's given a dose to every member of the Sunderland team. And I gotta say, they got options coming off. They got Broby coming off the bench and Adingra coming off the bench. Credit to them. They're a much better team than you give them credit for. And to Brentford, to those bees, I had you in the relegation zone, and now I'm really starting to believe in you, especially in your home form. Because I picked you last week to get something out of Newcastle after what you've done to Liverpool and to United before that. And your consistency is spectacular. Igor Thiago, we didn't get to see him much last year. He had his injury issues, and they only miss Ivan Toney. He's going in there and giving to them what Ivan Toney would give them. And Otara has come in and given them what Mbumo used to give them. Well coached, Keith Andrews. Best from set pieces. The amount of goals they get from long throws, and everyone talking about Arsenal doing this, but Brentford are the masters at the moment. Masters of the dark arts. And yeah, they're a tough out for everybody. They are sneaky good. They will sneak up on you. Do not underestimate them at your peril. And for Aston Villa, of course, they were the victims of Liverpool's bounce back. But then they smashed a Bournemouth team that I had as this year's Forest. That everyone was starting to be all right, Bournemouth is that team that's going to challenge everybody. I think everybody sort of Semenyo has had an amazing season for Bournemouth, and we'll get to them. But they went to Villa Park and they got thrashed. They got the stuffing knocked out of them by Villa. And Villa are back, ladies and gentlemen. Now, these three teams have been in the same tier, but you notice how this tier has just gone up every single week, these three teams together. And gotta give a round of applause to them. They are the teams that I'm going to lean on to get me some upsets against some of my title rivals. They already have. Brentford and Villa in 1 week, helped me. Sunderland took points off of us. So, yeah, this is this sneaky good tier. Moving up, underdogs. So look, I think we've established. Look, you noticed right now, these are the bottom 14 teams. You notice 6 teams that are missing from this tier. Your traditional top 6, and by the way, I'm going to commend them. And 11 weeks in, the cream has risen to the top. But these 3 teams, for me, have shown the most consistency throughout the season. And now I know what you're thinking. Maybe Villa should go in there, but Villa had a really, really bad start to the season. But Villa is almost there. You see they're 1 tier below. And even though I know they just smashed the stuffing out of Brentford, Brentford have shown me more consistency throughout the entirety of the campaign. And that is sort of what these 3 teams are. Bournemouth, Brighton, and Palace. All 3 tremendously well coached. All 3 pretty much consistent. They'll drop points to teams that are better than them, yeah. But overall, they've been the best of the rest. And when I say underdogs, I'm they're sort of underdogs into getting into those European places here. We're not going to back them over your traditional top 6. At the end of the day, those 6 teams are who they are, and they've got storied histories for a reason, right? They're bigger clubs. They just are more resources. But these are the teams, the scrappy teams that are right below, who are pretty talented, very well coached, who are going to give them headaches. And I would include the sneaky good tier below them. Those 6: Bournemouth, Brighton, Palace, Villa, Brentford, and Sunderland. They leave Newcastle in the dust. This is where Newcastle should have been, really, in the pantheons of this season. And instead, these 6 teams have shown them what consistency should look like. Now, some of them has Brentford, Villa, slow starters. Sunderland, amazing top 4 right now, right? Bournemouth quick out the gates, tailing off a little bit. Palace quick out the gates, tailing off a touch. But I still think that overall, like, I think Palace have been good. I mean, of course, the two of them shared the points. 0-0, but I think Palace have been there or thereabouts. They've been good. Let's not forget what they did. They started the tumble for Liverpool, and Brighton. What they did with Manchester City, right? So, and what did Bournemouth do to Spurs? Like, we're looking at 6 teams that are all capable on their day of causing an upset. So yeah, these tiers are starting to really take shape into kind of like where everybody will stack up this season. And when you take it out of the context, I know I come back beating up on Newcastle, but where it is now, man, everything's taking into shape, and you're sitting in the bottom 7, the third from bottom tier out of 9 tiers. You're in the bottom 33% of the league. See, and now doesn't that definition of mid from Everton make sense? Like, they've been more consistent probably than Burnley's, than West Ham's, and Fulham's, and Forest's, and Leeds, than Wolves. You can argue Newcastle. I still believe Newcastle are probably going to end up somewhere in the tiers above them. But, that's kind of where Everton are. And look at those 6 teams with great consistency. And now, let's move up a little bit into our top third, the big 6. Where do they all fall as we head up the tier? Guys, make sure you're liking, make sure you're subscribing to the channel. Let's go. The dark horses, Manchester United and Tottenham Hotspur. And these 2 teams played out for a 2-2 draw last week. And the conclusion, after having watched this weekend, is that these 2 teams, of course, who met in the Europa League final last year, who were 16 and 17, have really found their legs. Both have decent transfer windows. Ruben, I think, has really started to find a little bit more life and consistency in his side. I think it's a little bit less dumpster fiery as it was. Like, it's starting to get better. Like, let's take it into context, right? They went away to Spurs and they got a draw. That's a good result for most. And for Tottenham under Thomas Frank, they're resolute. And yeah, I think just sometimes you gotta have to like take a step back and realize where you came from and realize there's a progression here. And both of these two teams, I wouldn't fancy to battle it out for the title, or maybe even make it into the top 4. But they have come a long way. If they were to play in a similar European final this year, which obviously won't happen because Man United are not in Europe and Tottenham are in the UCL. But if they were to play again a game like that, I think it would be a lot more entertaining. And yeah, you just got to applaud where it is. You just kind of just track your consistency. And they're dark horses. Again, they're teams that you're probably going to give you a top 6 rivals sort of go if you're a top 4 of the 4 top teams, right? And they could beat you on their day. Just like anybody else. You go to head-to-head, and they're going to give you a good one. But the consistency may not be there the same as some of the teams above them overall. Next up, and I'm about to shake up your systems because this is what I've named this tier, top 4 favorites. Ladies and gentlemen, Liverpool FC. That's right, Chelsea fans. You can take a break for a second, but I will come after you. Although, I was not to say, and it's not negative. But for Liverpool FC, 5 defeats from 11 games. The so-called runaway favorites. They were going to cakewalk the league. It was going to be scary when they added Alexander Isak to the Liverpool ranks. That this team was so freaking talented. there was a gap between them and everybody else. You saw the Opta at the start. Yeah, people starting to look silly. But 5 defeats from 11 games. It's nearly half of your games you have lost. That's more defeats now than they had in the entirety of last season and the end of the year as well. After they had already won the league, they kind of were at the beach and dropped off. And I think they had 2 of those defeats in that period, right? 5 defeats after 11 games. That's not a title race team. You saw, look, I mean, I wish that Arsenal played them later on the season rather than when we did. Like, I would love to come out of the international break and play Liverpool now rather than when we did, because they had their confidence at the time and we didn't have really our signings through the door or fit or no Saka and all this stuff. Like, it was just a bit of a ugly game, and I think that Arteta's tactics gave them too much respect. But what we learned about this team later on is that they didn't really deserve that respect that much later on in the season as it progressed. And their confidence is in the trash. And they look thoroughly outclassed by Manchester City. And look, by the way, what is it now in the Premier League? How many defeats out of the last 6? I think it's 5 defeats from 6, the last 6. They went 5 from 5. I remember I said 15 of 15. And then the next 6, 3 from 18. Is that a team that's a title challenger? No. Do I back these teams to be in the top 4? Yes, because that sort of inconsistency won't win you a title, but it could get you into the top 4. Based off your overall quality and the fact that I still think you will win more games than you lose. But there are a lot of problems with Liverpool. It's not my time really to go into that. By the way, check out Fire Them Cannons. We had discussed that at length. We've actually chopped up some individual videos for you this week, so go check that out. That way you don't have to kind of silly just go through the entire podcast. You kind of, digest it in bits. And in one of the segments we discussed what we feel like is going on at Anfield right now. But this is not the main point here, is that they are no longer in the title race, guys. That's it. I said it a few weeks ago, but now I'm more definitively crossing them out. Elimination from title contention. 2 people are too safe. Oh, it's too early to write them off. No, write them off. No title winner goes through the type of periods that Liverpool has. Be perfectly honest with yourself. That's never happened. And another one, no title winner has had certain form like is Chelsea's form. And my God, Chelsea fans are from a different breed. You know what I was reading after we drew? After they beat Wolves, by the way. And I didn't even want to touch about Wolves. I didn't talk about Wolves. I said that. But they beat Wolves, the punching bag of the league, 3-0. I'm like, oh, wow, look how amazing Chelsea is. We're 6 points off the top. Title race on! Because Arsenal dropped points. Now we're in it. You think a draw from Arsenal has been so consistent? Be my guest. Try to have that type of consistency, Chelsea. You will not. But overall, though, I think Chelsea is progressing. At the end of the day, those are still facts. They are 6 points off the top. Did I expect that? Probably not. 20 points after 11 games. I think that's very, very good. And they had some sort of similar kind of start last year as well, but they fell off. But my question for Chelsea is, can you be consistent? I know they point to some of the games, and they point to Cole Palmer. Like, imagine we get a fit Cole Palmer back. I'm like, I don't think it makes that much of a difference. Cole Palmer or no Cole Palmer, you guys were still inconsistent. You're still a box of chocolates. I don't know what I'm getting from you every single week. And that's why, do I think you have the talent to be a top 4 favorite? Yes. I think these 2 teams will make the top 4. But do I think that they're in the title race? No. Stop it. Liverpool fans, I understand it a little bit because you're still a little bit in denial because you were meant to be the favorites. And once upon a time, even I myself had you in that category. Had you top of the tiers before. But you are not in the race anymore. And Chelsea certainly have never been in the race. So stop kidding yourself. The inconsistency is there too much. I could have literally just said, yep, these two teams aren't consistent enough to be title challengers, move on. But I decided to elaborate a little bit further. But look, Esteval's been playing very well. Look, I gotta say, the performance against Wolves was good. They played some really good ball. I can imagine why Chelsea fans were excited. But let's remember that they're playing against the punching bag of the league. It was literally practice. I expect most teams to look that way against Wolves, who have not just been the worst team, they have the worst defense in the Premier League. It is what it is. But now let's get up to the top of the tiers. And yes, it is the top of the tiers. We have two teams remaining. And we're running it back. We are running it back to the way it was in 2022-23, in 2023-24. Pep and Arteta going at it full throttle for the title. I said last week that the winner of Liverpool against Man City, just depending on what happened with Arsenal, would emerge as the main contender for Arsenal. And I've pleaded over the last weeks, guys, can somebody please, just to make this interesting, please provide me with a title rival, because I'm looking all over the land for one. And of course, stepping up had to be Pep Guardiola, Man City, and Erling Haaland. I'm pretty sure Haaland scored again since. But yeah, big looping header. By the way, missed a penalty. But City look comfortable. They look comprehensively comfortable at home playing against Liverpool. And they got that glint in their eye, that look about it, like, we're back. And Pep has had some fighting words from Mikel for Arsenal. Nope. After that game, and they're coming for us. And one thing I'll say is that they have the experience. They've never lost in a 2-horse race ever under Pep Guardiola. And we do need to watch out. Arsenal need to maintain our consistency over the period of time. But I am not going to bullshit you or be intellectually dishonest. We have a title race, ladies and gentlemen. And it's back to where it should be. Last year, I don't know where Liverpool came from. I still have no explanation. Us two teams just dropped off the map. It's like we had a 1 year to get a little bit of a rest mentally, just strip ourselves of the pressure so we can go again, both of us. And I hope this is the time now that Arsenal finally get their revenge and actually get it over the line. I mean, it would feel so much. This is the kind of way I think about it, and now we've had like a week now to think about it since the result, but I got way at Sunderland has dropped for Arsenal. It will feel a whole lot better. This title will mean a whole lot more if we are finally the team that really goes toe-to-toe with Man City and does it. That we are able to show an amount of consistency that is even greater than the great Pep Guardiola. That we can make them pay for their early season inconsistency and take it all the way. The cavalry are back for the Arsenal. And I will say this. This is what I've said on many shows, and I will say it now because we're going to turn to the Arsenal part of these tiers. I do feel that Sunderland result, from an Arsenal perspective, again, as I said, all credit to Sunderland. Sunderland did amazingly well to get a point. I do not want to take anything away from them at all. Making that perfectly clear. But yeah, the injuries that I was a bit worried about, the lack of a Victor Gyökeres that I was a little bit worried about, the compact schedule, the amount of traveling that we were doing within a 1 week period, 3 games, lots of mileage. Eventually, we started to look leggy and fatigued at the end, and that concentration, that focus that we usually have at the back was starting to go away as the minutes were ticking down. It looked like we were starting to hold on to that 2-1 lead that would be so crucial for us. And we did something very uncharacteristic. Raya and Gabrielle just collide. Raya comes out of his box and we concede. But overall, do I think that there's a reflection of us? No. I think the reflection of us has been the consistency. And I expect us to come back from the break and be just as consistent as we were before. And we've got Tottenham Hotspur and Chelsea to come. And I feel confident. I feel confident about Tottenham and Chelsea. And Matchweek will be back. Odegaard will be back. Who else are we talking about? Havertz will be back. Jesus will be back. That's somebody you'd expect, a name that you expect me to throw out there. Missing a few. Gyökeres will be back. And I just think that now you're going to see the Arsenal at their full power. And I'm happy that it was going to be against Tottenham that we got to see that. It was always written in the stars that you're going to see that full strength Arsenal team against Tottenham. And I just think that, all right, had a bit of an injury thing going on. Now it's kind of, we've moved past that part of the season and we're 4 points clear at the top of the Premier League. So yeah, it's a bit unfortunate that we didn't pick up all the points. But at the end of the day, we got a title race and I back Arsenal to do it. Arsenal against Man City. Guys, let me know in the comments section below, guys. Who do you think will win the Premier League at the end of the year from this point onwards, now that we believe that City are in? Because let me tell you, there's a lot of people out there just been like, oh, Manchester City, I told you that they would win the league. I mean, they're still 4 points behind, guys. So for me, I'll be honest. I think it's Arsenal's title. I think this is Arsenal's year. I think that's clear. It's got it written everywhere. Look at England, the international break, Saka, Eze. That's just giving you a taste. I'm loving to see my Arsenal players kind of play for their nations, get a little bit of form and a little bit of confidence in front of goal, so that when we play the Spuds at the Emirates, we can smash them. And that is the way I feel. So guys, anybody, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below of the tiers. Am I a bit harsh on Newcastle? Should they have been a bit higher? Should they have been higher than Everton? Are the top six the best six in the league now? Finally, we've got some parity here. Let's see. Anyway, guys, we will see you guys in the next video. Of course, we're international break, so we're going to have all our other videos coming up within the next week. I want to add a new segment as well. Watch out for Fire Them Cannons. We should also be back on the terrace this week as well. So as we start heating up towards that big weekend, which involves Arsenal against Spurs, we will have more content coming for you. But until then, guys, Anton out.